The Resilience Across Borders podcast is intended for education, support, and inspiration. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer any professional, medical, or health advice. If you are dealing with or suffering from any psychological or medical conditions, please seek help from a qualified health professional. Hello and welcome back to Resilience Across Borders podcast. I'm your host, Rashid Zahidi, and also author of the Gym Journal, that is an abbreviation for Emotional Gym, and a guide and workbook to get clear and stay focused on priorities and institute better habits. So in today's episode, we'll talk about the psychology of letting go and how release becomes power. So in popular culture, letting go is often portrayed as weakness or giving up or surrendering or even lowering standards. In psychology, however, letting go is something very different. It is a deliberate act of emotional regulation, cognitive flexibility, and self-respect. Letting go is not about pretending something didn't matter. It is about choosing not to let it control you anymore. So whether it involves a relationship, an old identity, resentment, regret, or even a missed opportunity, learning how to release attachment is one of the most powerful psychological skills a person can develop. When practiced intentionally, letting go does not diminish you, it strengthens you. In this episode, we will explore the psychology behind letting go and as always, present some practical strategies for turning that release into personal power. So, number one is understand that attachment is a survival mechanism. From a psychological perspective, attachment is not a flaw. It is a survival function. The human brain is wired to hold on to people, hold on to routines, hold on to identities, and familiar emotional patterns because predictability feels safe. So even when something is unhealthy, the nervous system often prefers familiar pain over uncertain change or peace. So when you struggle to let go, it is not because you are weak. It is because part of your brain believes that holding on equals protection and safety. So letting go requires teaching your nervous system that safety does not depend on the past. So, give you a practical example. Let's take relationship attachment, one of the common attachments. After a breakup, you may keep replaying memories, checking social media, or imagining reconciliation. This is your brain trying to preserve emotional security. Something you can practice is each time the urge arises, pause and say internally, this is my nervous system seeking safety. I am safe now. Over time, this reduces emotional reactivity. So here's a second example, a career identity attachment. You may cling to a job title or career path that no longer fits because it once defined your worth. What you can practice is you can write down 3 personal qualities you possess that exist independently of your job or your career. This strains your identity away from external validation. Number 2, separate loss from meaning. So one of the biggest barriers to letting go is the belief that releasing something means it was meaningless. So psychologically, humans resist letting go because they fear invalidating their own past. You can be so invested in something from the past that you just holding on to it seems to be the only thing that's meaningful. If I let this go, does it mean I wasted years? Or that I was wrong all this time? Or was it all for nothing? These are typically things that, we wrestle with and we grapple with. But the truth is, letting go does not erase meaning. It integrates it. A healthy release allows you to honor what was without being imprisoned by it. So again, let's say past relationship regret. You may think if I move on, it means that relationship didn't matter or never mattered. But actually, you can practice to reframe it as that relationship mattered. It taught me, it shaped me, and now I carry the lessons forward. You can write down 3 lessons you gained from it. Example 2, say, okay, a business or project. You may hold on to resentment about a failed venture. You can practice listing the skills, the connections, and insights you gained from that experience. Treat it as say, training, not failure. Because when it's training and when it has lessons, then it is not all lost, right? But even if it's like you may think it's all lost, whatever, sometimes the best thing to do is to move forward and then take what you can take with you. There's nothing good that can come out of just holding on to something like that from the past. Number 3, release the need for emotional control. Many people hold on to situations because they are trying to control how they feel. They believe if I keep thinking about it, analyzing it, or replaying it, I'll eventually feel better. Oh, that's the wrong way to go about it, because it just gets worse and worse, and you get stuck in these loops of hell, really. So in reality, overthinking is often a disguised form of emotional avoidance. So letting go means allowing emotions to move through you instead of managing them intellectually. You cannot solve some of these things by replaying them in your mind and thinking and overthinking. It's just you get stuck in the loop and nothing happens. You're just beating yourself up, literally. So power comes from emotional flexibility, not emotional suppression. So the practical example is ruminating or rumination after conflict. After an argument, you replay what you should have said or you should have done. And a better practice is set a window. It can be even up to 10 minutes. Call it a processing window. Do a brain dump, journal everything. When time is up, close the notebook and return to the present moment where life is happening. This prevents endless looping. Here's another example. Guilt over past decisions. You may repeatedly analyze a past choice, but a better practice is place one hand on your chest and breathe slowly for 60 seconds while acknowledging, I did the best I could with what I knew then. This grounds the emotion in the body, not just the mind. And that's the truth. You did the best you could with what you had at the time. That's all there is to it. So, number 4, redefine closure as an internal process. Many people delay letting go because they are waiting for external closure, an apology, an explanation, a validation, or acknowledgement. Psychologically, this creates emotional dependency. So why do you want to give that control over to somebody else and wait for them to give you that closure? That may never come, by the way. Closure that depends on others keeps you stuck in unfinished emotional business. True closure is self-generated. It is the decision to stop outsourcing your peace. I will repeat that. It is the decision to stop outsourcing your peace to others. So again, practical example is waiting for an apology. You are stuck in resentment because someone never took responsibility. So really, what can you really do about that? You can write a letter you never sent expressing everything you wish they understood. Because otherwise, what's the point? I mean, then write your own response as if you were a wise, compassionate mentor to yourself. Because we often are really good at giving others good advice and seeing, what's happening. But when it comes to us, sometimes we just get lost in there. And as the saying goes, if you're inside the bottle, you cannot read the label. But this mind shift, this paradigm shift helps a lot. Sometimes you just step away and it's like you're being an outside mentor to yourself or a good friend to yourself. you will see a difference. So, for instance, another example is unanswered questions after, say, a breakup. You keep wondering, why did it end? But a better practice is to create your own coherent narrative. It ended because our needs, timing, or values no longer aligned. A simple, believable story is better than endless speculation. Number 5, shift from identity-based attachment to values-based living. Much suffering comes from attaching to who you were instead of who you are becoming. I am the person who does this, that, or I used to be, etc., etc., or I should still be, and on and on and on. When identity becomes rigid, letting go feels like losing yourself. And you have to separate that. Psychological resilience comes from living by values, not fixed identities. Values travel with you. Roles do not. Roles change. Roles evolve. So again, a practical example, letting go of a former version of yourself. You may cling to your old self, who was more maybe confident in a particular situation, or successful at one thing that you did before, or maybe carefree at one point or another. So a better practice is identify 3 core values that still guide you. Maybe the value of growth, maybe the value of honesty, the value of compassion, or the value of courage. Build your identity around your relevant and current values. Another example is transition after a major life change, say after divorce, relocation, or illness. Identity might feel shattered. You can ask yourself as often as you want, maybe weekly, what would a person living by my values do today? Then take one small aligned action, one small aligned step. Number 6, practice micro letting go daily. Letting go is not a single decision. It is a daily neurological retraining process. Small releases compound into emotional freedom. Each time you choose not to engage in a negative loop, you strengthen psychological autonomy. So, practical example, letting go of minor frustrations. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you stay angry for hours. Better practice, take 3 slow breaths and consciously drop the story. Train your brain to disengage. Again, because this is something we don't have control over. This stuff will happen. It's like, it's not personal. It's just how it is. Remind yourself you are safe. Remind yourself what's important, and focus on what you can control. Take 3 slow breaths and consciously drop the story. I'm not here sitting here saying that's always easy, that's instantaneous. This takes practice, and this takes repetition and reps. And sometimes, yeah, it lets us down, but the more we do it, the easier it gets. So example number 2, releasing perfectionism. So if you obsess over small mistakes, which most of us do, better practice is deliberately submit or share something at, say, 90% good enough, say once a week. Done and not perfect is better than perfect and never done. So build tolerance for imperfection, but look for excellence. 7, reframing letting go as self-respect. At its deepest level, letting go is an act of self-respect. It is the recognition that your time, your energy, and the emotional bandwidth are valuable. Holding on to resentment, nostalgia, regret, or fantasy is often a form of self-abandonment. Release is not resignation. It is boundaries applied inwardly. So, again, practical example, letting go of one-sided relationships. You keep investing in someone who gives little back. Better practice, redirect that energy into one relationship that reciprocates. Notice how your self-worth improves. Or releasing self-criticism. You replay personal mistakes harshly. A better practice is replacing self-attack with coaching language. And ask yourself, for instance, what is the next constructive step? Psychologically, letting go strengthens three core capacities: emotional regulation, cognitive flexibility, and self-directed identity. When you let go, you are no longer governed by old stories. You're no longer governed by outdated fears or unresolved emotions. What you reclaim instead is attention, energy, choice, direction. You get to decide where your attention goes, your energy, and you make your choices and you choose your direction. Release creates space. Space creates clarity, and clarity creates power. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering who you are without the weight of what no longer serves you. And that is one of the highest forms of psychological strength. So as always, thank you for tuning into the Resilience Across Borders podcast. Please share the podcast. If you know someone who could use this particular episode, please forward it to them. And you can follow the blog posts on the URL at resilience.com. That is ATRESILIENCE.com. Remember to be kind to yourself and then be kind to others and stay resilient.